In this video series, you will learn how to cut the fabric required to make a kurti. We shall start with the front and back pieces before learning to cut the sleeves and neckline interfacing. Remember to watch the previous videos to learn how to make the pattern for a kurti. To cut the fabric, you will need your pattern, a sheet of fabric, some pins, a piece of chalk, a measuring tape, a ruler, a pair of scissors, fusing paper, and an iron. Start by folding a sheet of fabric in half along its width. Now, fold it once more along its length as shown. Remember that the pattern represents only half of the garment. When the sheet is folded over twice, each of the 4 overlapping layers of a fabric gets cut in one half of the front and back pieces. Place the pattern along the fold of the fabric as shown, ensuring that all 4 layers are as wide as the pattern with an additional inch for a shoulder seam allowance. Pin the pattern to the fabric at the points shown. Once this is done, draw the outline of the pattern on the surface of the fabric. When you reach the shoulder, mark 2 points half an inch above the shoulder line to set the seam allowance. Draw a line through these points. Continue along the armhole and side seam. Once this is done, lift the top of the pattern and mark a reference point along the bottom of the front neckline. Draw the front neckline to the reference point you have just made. You are now ready to cut the fabric. From the hem at the bottom, continue cutting along the side seam and armhole to the shoulder seam line. Remove the excess fabric. Cut along the front neckline of the 2 topmost layers of the fabric as shown. Note that the excess fabric cut along the neckline will later be used to make an interfacing. Now, transfer the back neckline onto the 3rd layer of the fabric. Cut along the neckline. Cut along the shoulder line as well. Replace the pattern. Fold the sheet of fabric where the shoulder of the pattern ends and snip the corner so it forms a notch marking the shoulder seam. Do the same at the other end of the shoulder. Now, make a similar notch to mark the hemline as shown. Fold the fabric 3.5 inches down from the waistline along the edge and snip the point of the fold. This notch will mark the length of a slit that will be made below the side seams. Cut a notch near the end of the armhole to mark the side seam allowance. And yet another one on the shoulder line to mark the seam allowance for the armhole. Unpin the pattern sheet from the fabric. If you like, open out the layers of the fabric and the pattern to ensure that they share the same dimensions. You have now learned how to cut the fabric required for the front and back pieces of a kurti. Watch the next video to learn how to cut the sleeves.